Okay, this is the Dillian Whyte versus Alexander Povetkin, or should I really rightly be saying it, Alexander Povetkin versus Dillian Whyte 2, the rematch, the Rumble on the Rocks in Gibraltar. Here we go. So I haven't done this preview yet. I'm doing it today. But I finally felt inspired to talk about it. I haven't been inspired to talk about it since the first fight. The red alert, the first video I did, the warning signs before the fight was actually made solid. I said that this was a dangerous fight for Dillian Whyte. The last time he got in the ring with the Olympic gold medalist, we all know what happened that night. He got beat by Anthony Joshua. I beat that night again. I did talk about Dillian Whyte taking that fight. And I said he wasn't ready for that fight. He was injured going into that fight, and he wasn't fully prepared for that fight. Nobody listened to me. He went in and put the performance that he did, comes out afterwards, admits that, yep, I was injured. Okay, so what do we have here? The rematch. Well, see this picture right here? I don't want to tell anybody what to do, but one thing I would be doing if I was a trainer, I'd be looking at this picture right here. That's where the fight starts, right here, where Dillian Whyte on the canvas. That's not taking the mickey. That's not trying to be funny, not trying to be a smart ass or trying to embarrass Dillian Whyte. That's where the fight has to begin. How the hell did I end up on the canvas? I've heard a conversation of how Dillian Whyte was winning the fight. He was ahead on the scorecard. He knocked Povetkin down twice. You know, he was coming out with a beautiful jab. He was boxing well. He was ahead on the scorecards. You know, he was doing this. He was doing that. Povetkin landed a lucky punch. If that is the approach from the trainers in the training camp, if that is the approach from those in charge of Dillian Whyte, and if those are the things that I've been told to Dillian Whyte now, then expect more of this in Gibraltar. Get your sleeping bag ready. Get your pillow ready for a repeat. Because if that's the approach, that means you haven't learned your lesson the first time round. And it is a lesson that needs to be learned and learned quickly. This is world heavyweight boxing. This isn't sports hall boxing. And no disrespect to sports hall boxing. There've been some great fights in sports halls. But this is big time boxing, elite boxing. You understand? And therefore there needs to be an elite mindset going into this rematch. And if you don't have an elite mindset, then maybe you need to take a seat. Because the story is, well, he was winning the fight. Well, can you explain this? Can you explain this situation here? You allow a man to get off the canvas and knock you out. So I don't want to hear anything back. Well, he was winning the fight until he got caught. Okay, right. Well, Bruno shook Tyson. We saw the pummeling he got afterwards. Bruno was ahead on the scorecards against Lennox Lewis. We saw what happened there. Harold Graham was winning a fight against Julian Jackson, a guy with only one eye. We all saw what happened then. I don't want to hear about what could have been, should have been, and in fantasy world. The fact of the matter is Dillian Whyte got laid out flat. And we have to look at things for what they are, not how we'd like them to be. And this is the problem with British boxing in particular. We don't look at facts as they are. We look at things as we'd like them to be. Or maybe Callum Smith will change his style to fight Canelo. Well, he didn't do it in all his career. Why is he going to start doing it now? Oh, well, maybe if this happens and that happens. No. The bottom line is these are the way these guys fight in patterns. So we have to look at the situation, look at this, and ask ourselves why this happened. I'm hearing excuses like, well, Whyte switched off and this and that. But the clues were given to us. And I say to you, every fighter gives us clues as to what's going to happen in lead up to a big fight. For the most part, there is a track record. Dillian Whyte had been knocked down by Oscar Rivas, he'd been knocked down by Joseph Parker, and he'd been knocked up by Anthony Joshua. Let's not forget, it was Rivas that knocked him down with an uppercut. Joseph Parker hit him with the overhand right, and Joshua hit him with the uppercut. By the way, Povetkin actually knocked him out with the uppercut. Are we not looking at these things? And are we overlooking it? Typically in British boxing, we overlook the things that tragically will put us into trouble. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that and say that I like a certain fighter, but ignore the facts and the red and the red alerts. I said if Dillian Whyte's back touches ropes or his back is near the ropes, that's where he's going to get knocked out by Povetkin. And that's exactly where he got knocked out, right? Look where his back is. Look where his back is, right against the ropes. And this is something I saw before it happening. So this is the way I'm looking at this situation. This is the way I'm viewing this situation. First of all, Harold the Shadow Knight. I've known Harold the Shadow Knight for many years now as a trainer, good trainer. I worked in the corner of Lennox Lewis, and you can look back at the old Bwtm Bayloric TV interviews to find out just how experienced a trainer Harold the Shadow Knight is. So he's been there. He's seen it with Lennox Lewis, Imani Stewart, Courtney Shan. He's been there. He knows about big fights. He knows about big fight atmosphere. Okay, so let's take that into consideration. Dillian Whyte has got, let's say, a few decisions to make as to who he actually is going into this rematch against Dillian Whyte. Against Alexander Povetkin. He's got some decisions to make. Is he Dillian Whyte Mark 1? The one who fought with Mark Tibbs? That Dillian Whyte? Is he that fighter, or is that fighter gone? Is he the fighter that fought with Mark Tibbs? Is he that guy? Is he the fighter that's with Xavier Miller? That fighter, that style? Or is he going to come out and fight the style of Harold the Shadow Knight? Right? Is he going to do that? Or is Dillian Whyte just going to throw the kitchen sink and just come and have a tear with Povetkin? Which Dillian Whyte is going to turn up? One thing we know about Povetkin, he's consistent. No matter if he fights Povetkin next week, next year, or go back in a time he fights the same, more or less the same way. We know what Povetkin's coming out with. He's consistent. He's the same trainer, consistency. So what can we pick apart from the fight? Yes, Whyte knocked Povetkin down twice, but Whyte has a terrible habit of backing up against the ropes voluntarily. That is where his danger is. He's going to take the center of the ring, and he's going to have to go get behind the jab again, but he has to be careful because Whyte's defense is the liability in this fight. Not his offense, his defense. When you're getting knocked down by uppercuts repeatedly, Rivas, Joshua, and Povetkin, that means you're not seeing the uppercut coming. People who say it's a lucky punch, well, then Rivas landed a lucky punch and Joshua landed a lucky punch. Don't understand it. Look at the tape. It's there. It's just lazy people just jumping on bandwagons without actually studying tape. He got knocked down by Rivas and knocked out by Joshua and got knocked out by Povetkin by the uppercut. So that tells me that there's a vulnerability to that uppercut. So they're going to have to sort that out in camp because that's the shot he got caught with. And if you go into the breakdown of this fight, when I did my first breakdown of this fight, Whyte is vulnerable to the overhand right. He's vulnerable to the uppercut. And those two shots he's most vulnerable to when he's backing straight up, his back against the ropes. That's where he's most vulnerable. And that is where Povetkin will be looking for those gaps again. Through the middle, with the uppercut or the overhand right. And it was one shot that knocked Dillian Whyte out. Not succession of punches, one shot. Nobody's asking the question, has Dillian Whyte's durability diminished? Is it the same? Is he, he had back-to-back fights at top level. He was a very busy heavyweight. That fight against Joseph Parker was a tough fight. The fight against Rivas was a tough fight. You know what I mean? So back-to-back camps. Is there within Dillian Whyte's camp, is there an agreed game plan moving forward? Are they going to, as I said before, are they going to go down the Power of the Shadow Knight route? Are they going to go down the Xavier Miller route? Are they going to go down the Mark Tibbs route? Are they going to, Dillian Whyte just going to come out and do his own thing? Which way are they going to go with this? Are they going to come with the argument of, well, if you look at the tape, he was winning the fight until he got knocked out. Yeah, but he was winning the fight, but he was still vulnerable to the uppercut, which means he ended up like this. So do we throw that game plan away, or do we keep that game plan? Howard Shadow Knight may come in and say, hey, I've worked with Lennox Lewis and countless of heavyweight title fights. This is why, this is the game plan. I think this is where we need to go ahead with that. Then they try to put that game plan in place. Dillian has brought him into camp. How does that work? How do the two men, how does Xavier Miller and Howard the Shadow Knight work together? How does that work? Obviously Xavier was head trainer, and then Howard the Shadow Knight's come in. And let's not forget, before that happened, we had Dave Colwell to the rescue. So seems a bit of confusion going on there. If that was the case, if Dave Colwell was brought in as a consultancy or as an experienced position, if he's so experienced, why didn't they bring Dave Colwell in this time? Or was it the case that Dave Colwell didn't want to go to Portugal and work with Dillian Whyte? I don't know. It's none of my business. But they have to get down to one game plan, one strategy. I can tell you now, Povetkin will say, look, I've knocked him out with one shot already. I just need to look for the opening, wait for him to back against the ropes again, and boom, I'll get him again. Going into this fight, what made people so confident into believing Dillian Whyte could beat a former Olympic champion, gold medal winning champion? What gave people the confidence in that? That Dillian Whyte's going to just show up and beat him. I mean, it was pretty arrogant for people to believe that against Povetkin. And in his last fight, he'd gone tooth and nail with Michael Hunter. Michael Hunter that would beat most heavyweights today. So even that, I mean, going back to this whole Xavier Miller thing, you've got Xavier Miller, you've got Howard the Shadow Knight, you had Dave Colwell coming in and having a few words to say about how things should be from a consulting perspective. So what is it? And you've got the old Mark Tibbs. And then one would say the most successful time Dillian Whyte had was with Mark Tibbs. One could have said, well, you could squash the beef, get rid of all your trainers and go back to Mark Tibbs. Humble yourself, go back to Mark Tibbs and prepare yourself for the Povetkin rematch. That was where you fought at your best. I said going into this first fight with Povetkin, the tempo will be everything in the fight. If Dillian Whyte comes out and tries to box like Floyd Mayweather and try to box by the jab and look cute against Povetkin, that's not the style for Povetkin. He's an old man. Therefore, you've got to make an old man work early. Take the gas out of the tank early. Force him into a fight. Make him be every bit feeling he's over 40. No, you want to box by the jab and try to break him down slowly. Break what down slow? You're a 40-year-old. So you allow the 40-year-old to get the engine up, crank the engine up. You allow the 40-year-old to get warmed up. into the fight. You knock the 40-year-old down, goes, all right, now we got a real fight here. He gets out the corner next round, lands the uppercut, knocks you out. Yeah, well, that breaking down strategy worked well, didn't it? And what was the logic behind that? We're going to break him down slowly. I mean, Dillian Whyte has, when he fought Parker, he mixed up boxing with bullying. You know, he picked his moments, and he looked really good in that fight against Parker. Really bullied Joseph Parker, and in fact, I think he did a better job against Joseph Parker than Anthony Joshua did. And he looked better against Joseph Parker for the most part than Andy Ruiz did. So he did really well against Joseph Parker, really well. Just those last few moments in the 12th round, which were a bit rocky. So, you know, even the left hook that landed on Povetkin, the two left hooks, they didn't sustain enough damage on Povetkin for Povetkin to be unable to get out the next round and knock him out. His legs look strong, firm, ready to land a shot. So he's just got to be, he's either got to be very close to Povetkin, and they've got to tie Povetkin. I don't care. If their camp, if Whyte's camp don't believe that they need to tie Povetkin up in this fight, they're looking to get knocked out again. Gonna have to tie Povetkin up. Gonna find a way to tie him up. Tie him up. And keep him as far away from you as possible. When he's up close, tie him up. Mid-range, you need to be nowhere near Povetkin at mid-range. You need to be nowhere near Povetkin at mid-range with them short arms. Anywhere he can hit you with an overhand right or an uppercut, you need to be nowhere near that range. Use them long arms and keep him at the end of those long arms. Walk him onto shots. But do not be at mid-range with Povetkin, for goodness sake, Dillian. And if you have to win ugly in this fight, win ugly. But I don't know how much punch resistance Dillian Whyte has got left. I don't know what game plan they're going to come in with against Povetkin. I don't know which Dillian Whyte's going to come in. I don't know whether it's going to be a tentative Dillian Whyte, knowing he's been knocked out already by this guy who could literally knock him out again. I don't know if it's going to be a Dillian Whyte that's going to try and brawl with Povetkin and walk onto a shot again. I don't know if we're going to get Mayweather Whyte, which is going to, again, stick behind a jab and break him down and look to stop Povetkin later on. We saw how that happened. It worked out the first fight. Maybe that's just not the way Dillian Whyte is wired. That's another thing, how Dillian Whyte is wired as a fighter. Sometimes fighters lose concentration, or athletes lose concentration, not because they are, because sometimes they lose concentration because they're not fully on board with an idea, or mainly because they're not fully on board with an idea. They don't believe in an idea, which means their mind tends to wander. And if they've been training with a wandering mind, the way you train is how the way you fight. So if you train with a wandering mindset, i.e., you train a little bit, you have a chat with your mate. You train a little bit, you put some music on, you dance a bit. You train a little bit, you turn across and mocking somebody. If you're doing those things in camp, then that's exactly how you're going to fight. And come fight night, that moment you expect to turn and talk to your mate is the moment where you switch off and bang, your lights are put out. And where you might get away with it at European level, fringe world level, British, Commonwealth and European level, it's okay. It's okay. But yeah, Dillian Whyte's got long levers. I haven't watched any interviews. I haven't watched anything to do with Dillian Whyte or Xavier Miller, or I just haven't had the time, frankly. I really haven't. And I've not been greatly excited about it, to be honest. But Dillian Whyte, we work with what Dillian Whyte has got. He's got long levers. He's got long arms, extremely long arms. Use the jab. Use your physical abilities. Tie up Povetkin up close. Don't be at mid-range with Povetkin. Use your jab. Hit him from long range like an octopus style. That would be Harold the Shadow Knight has been on the channel before. I've done 2 extensive interviews with him. So if you just type in Harold the Shadow Knight, BWTM or Baylor TV, you can listen to Harold the Shadow Knight at length talking about boxing and how he got into the sport. It's a very interesting interview. So yeah, Harold the Shadow Knight is no stranger to BWTM. In fact, I congratulated Harold on his on getting the job with DILLIAN Whyte. So yeah, shout out to Harold the Shadow Knight. Great guy. So they just got to use the jab and box, but it's whether DILLIAN Whyte can stick to that game plan, A. B, whether DILLIAN Whyte believes in that game plan, and C, when it gets hot in there, will DILLIAN Whyte be able to stay with the game plan? And if Povetkin lands another one of those humdingers, will the same thing happen to DILLIAN Whyte? He's had some time to recover now. I mean, he wasn't rushing into the rematch like he was going to do before. So you'd like to think that he would have recovered. But punch resistance, don't know. Don't know. There's only so many times you can keep getting dropped. And those tough fights, the Reavers fight, the Parker fight, we won't know what state DILLIAN Whyte is in until the night of the fight. He's going to have to come back. He's going to have to be mentally very, very strong in this fight. Very, very, very strong. After not fixing those defensive mistakes after 5 years, I doubt he will win. He can, but it will be something. It's the defensive flaws which are the concern. Think how well Povetkin recovered from COVID could be a major factor. Really? You think it's be that much of a factor? Okay. I guess you would also say that it was because of COVID. That's why Josh Kelly lost to David Adesanya. Bottom line is this. I don't think Povetkin's too much of a professional to allow himself to take a chance. He's doubly risk it if he didn't think he was 100% sure this fight with DILLIAN Whyte. Some reports he had pneumonia too. His manager was saying that he had 70% lung capacity at one point. Okay. Yeah. But he boxes like he's got 70% lung capacity. Have you seen the way Povetkin boxes after time? I mean, after about 3 rounds, he looks like he's exhausted. So maybe he had it all then as well. Who knows? He looked exhausted in that fight. He also looked exhausted in the Price fight. He looked exhausted in the Hunter fight. He always looks exhausted. And then he just pulls out these punches from nowhere. You know who else used to look exhausted like that? Evander Holyfield. Later in his career, he used to have these flat patches where he looked really exhausted, and then he'd come alive. Stating case studies. Evander Holyfield, when he fought Michael Moorer, we found he had a hole in the heart. Evander Holyfield, when he fought Riddick Bowe the second time. Evander Holyfield, when he fought, what's his name? Bobby Ches, and then he went on and fought Mike Tyson and put in a fantastic performance. Evander Holyfield, when he fought Lennox Lewis the first fight, and then the second fight came out, fought totally different. Evander Holyfield is one of them guys as well. Povetkin very confident rematch, he said, mentally on point. Yeah, I can believe that. Whyte doesn't believe Povetkin had COVID because he failed to produce any medical proof. Yeah, I can believe that. I think it allows Povetkin more time to heal, being the older man, more time to heal, come back fresh and ready to go. He may have had an injury going into that fight against Whyte the first time round. Who knows? But COVID brought his lung capacity down, apparently. But get your point. Povetkin doesn't really waste shots, and he only needs one. That's it. In all we're talking here, unlike the Joshua fight where Joshua got knocked down numerous occasions against Andy Ruiz, and for the person that was trying to be clever and said to me, "Oh well, you thought Andy Ruiz would win the rematch," yeah, but he wasn't the Andy Ruiz that fought the first fight, was it? Everybody can clearly see Andy Ruiz was totally out of shape for the rematch, totally out of shape. So, and even then, Joshua had to pickpocket his way out for the victory. So, situation like there's always some people that come in a room and want to say, "Oh, you got this wrong." The amount of times experts get it wrong, but they still go back and watch the experts. But anyway, that's beside the point. So it's just a case here of what the game plan will be, and the two key points here with DILLIAN Whyte that if I'm a Povetkin fan or Povetkin team, I'm thinking his defense and his durability. Those two things, and the fact that he naturally backs straight up against the ropes. They've done it because of back to his kickboxing days. I don't know. And remember, Whyte is really a brawler turned boxer. Whyte is really a brawler turned boxer. Povetkin's been a gold medal winning champion. He's a world champion. He's been a world champion. You understand? And he's been an Olympic gold medalist. And I said the last Olympic gold medalist that DILLIAN Whyte fought, you saw what happened. So if Whyte can pull this one out, then why is there not a third fight? Because if Whyte lost the first fight and Povetkin loses the second fight, should there not be a third fight, a rubber match? Surely. Just putting it out there. I wish DILLIAN Whyte all the best, but he has to win this fight. He's got to win it by long range, I think. If his back is touching at ropes again, and he's vulnerable to the overhand right and the uppercut on the left hook, I just hope that he can just get his defenses together and have the confidence to do that. It's a tough ask ahead for DILLIAN Whyte, a real tough ask. I would rephrase the Rumble on the Rocks and change it to Career on the Rocks, because if he loses to Povetkin, that doesn't bode well for DILLIAN Whyte, who already wasn't popular with the WBC. He should have gone down that WBA route. Think about it now. He could have been fighting Trevor Bryant for the title. And he could be becoming WBA heavyweight champion of the world. I said, if DILLIAN Whyte listened to me, he'd probably be WBA heavyweight champion of the world today, making a defense in Jamaica. I mean, jokes aside now, this is serious. If it was red alert for the first fight, then it's triple red alert for the second fight, because there's added value to this second fight. Trainers, durability, back against the ropes, and mental scarring. You're fighting a guy that's laid you out flat with one shot. Can you overcome all those things? Stick to a game plan, or you lose concentration, do your own thing, try and go Ghetto and Povetkin and walk onto a big shot. Dear me. It's a tough one. It's a tough one. Anyone who can claim COVID in this pandemic, but with no proof, it's tough to believe. It's a tough one indeed. I don't know. I hope DILLIAN Whyte can do it. I hope he can do it. I hope he's got quality I hope he's invested in quality sparring partners this time that have got at least Olympic pedigree or quality fighters. I hope he really has invested. No disrespect to people he's been sparring with before, but I hope he's invested, because you can't cut corners in this rematch. You spent money going to court to get solicitors to get yourself to get a world title shot and then get knocked out. Let's hope that Whyte doesn't cut corners. He follows a game plan and sticks with it. But for me, it's got to be long range, and forget the talk about you're ahead on points. Forget that talk, because that talk ends at you getting laid out here. Your fight begins getting off this canvas, DILLIAN Whyte, and stopping Povetkin, or beating him on points. Either way, and it's round by round, round by round. Round one, okay, ticket in the bag. Round two, ticket in the bag. Round three, ticket in the bag. Round four, round by round by round. Literally. Literally. So I hope that you've enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate, subscribe, leave your comments. And YouTube is definitely crashing, because the comments in the comment section, like I said previously, all your comments, for the most part, are sticking in YouTube. There's comments that people have left like weeks ago I've approved, and yet they still won't come up on the system. I don't know what is going on with YouTube. Real got issues. But anyway, by the way, while you're at it, check us out now on Odyssey. Odyssey, Odyssey. If you want to do something, real great channel. I don't mess with YouTube that much anymore. Odyssey. Odyssey, Odyssey. And all Bwtm, sports, gaming, Bwtm online, all our content is over there. Odyssey, get across there, give us a like, give us a follow, and it's great because it doesn't suppress YouTubers, and it's the future. Odyssey, definitely the future. That's where I'm at, and that's where I'm going. That's where I'll be. Take care, everybody. Knight said a game plan that's very similar to what you described, Ingram. Well, what do I know about boxing? Have a great night. Take care.